So welcome back, everybody, to the NCSY Collegiate Learning Series. It's wonderful to see you guys again. We're going to get started in just a minute here. In the meantime, we're going to ask that everybody, if you don't mind, filling out a short form that Nicole just posted in our chat. The way this is going to work is that it's a really, really short, easy form to fill out, just so that we kind of know who's here and where you guys are all coming from. And then at the end of this series, based on how many entries you get from filling out the form, once at each class, we're going to do a raffle for two $50 Amazon gift cards. So if you guys don't mind kind of signing in, that'll be good for us and good for you, and everybody wins. So before we introduce Rabbi Lashak, I just wanted to first of all take a minute to do two very, very quick thank yous. Number one is from the NCSY and JSU alumni program, the Judah Fellowship. There was a committee that came together to really help get this going and to narrow down a list of so many topics that Rabbi Lashak was available to teach for you guys. So just a quick shout out and thank you to Dahlia, to Dylan, to Rebecca, to Shachar, and to Zach, all you guys for all of your really, really hard work. Obviously, a big thank you to Nicole Chermak, who is as all of the Judah Fellows here know, the soul of the Judah Fellowship, for all of the organization and putting everything together and making sure that this class can get started and really continue to move without a hitch. So I just want to say a couple quick words about Rabbi Lashak. I've been really, really blessed to know Rabbi Lashak for many years at this point. Really, it's an honor for me to say that not only is he a colleague of mine, not only is he a mentor and a teacher of mine, but most importantly for me, he's really become a very good friend and somebody who I look up to and continue to look up to. And every time I have the opportunity to learn from Rabbi Lashak, whether it's online or it's at Yarchei Kala or at NCSY StaffCon, I always come away, and I've even called Rabbi Lashak to ask him to repeat some of his shiurim, because I always come away saying, wow, this is what I'm going to use the next time I need something. It's always great stuff, and it's always inspiring. And I think if I can give a compliment to Rabbi Lashak, it's that not only do I enjoy hearing it and hearing his Torah, I enjoy repeating and telling over his Torah, which I think hopefully is a good compliment to get things rolling here. But the truth of the matter is that none of you guys came here to hear me speak, so I'm going to turn the reins over to Rabbi Yisrael Lashak.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I know Nicole and John, and they worked very, very hard to put all this together. And I'm very blessed to know a lot of you already by now. And I'm so sorry I missed the Puerto Rico trip. So please forgive me. We wanted to celebrate with Shachar over there and, her future Hatan. So please forgive me. So nice to see all your beautiful faces. So please, if you can show your faces, that would be amazing, because, all of you are very beautiful. So, and it helps me get excited about what I'm teaching you when I see your beautiful faces. Adonai sepatai tiftachu fi yagid teilatecha la'asot nachad ruach leyotzreinu. So tonight we're talking about a concept that is, believe it or not, is very, very obscure, meaning most people don't talk about this. On the other hand, Judaism has an incredible amount of information, which is very strange, meaning there is incredible amount. I'm going to be told, is there an echo? Is there a... there is a lot of information about the concept of evil eye, what we call in Judaism Ayin Hara. Yet, if you go around and ask people about it, they don't really know anything about it or very little about it. So before I start, I want to share with you the following. The concept of evil eye is not only a Jewish concept, it's actually found in Islam, it's actually found in many cultures and religions in the Far East. if you travel to Greece or Turkey, for example, if you ever go to Istanbul, which is one of my favorite cities in the world, and you enter the Grand Bazaar, which is probably the biggest shuk in the world, the biggest market in the world. You can spend 5 days in the Grand Bazaar and literally see they say that whatever you don't find in the Grand Bazaar, you will never find it anywhere in the world, and it's true. You will find literally hundreds of stores just dedicated to the concept of the eye. In many parts of the world, especially in that part of the world, which is what I'm saying, Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, all that area of the Mediterranean, there are literally millions of people and hundreds, if not thousands of stores that actually sell you an eye, and is a blue eye. And they believe in this. They believe in the evil eye. I have right now, next to me, because my mom is Sephardi, my father was Ashkenaz, so I have a Hamsa. A Hamsa is a hand, means 5 in Hebrew, or in Arabic, Hamsa means 5. And I have it right here, right next to me in my office. There is a Hamsa. There is a collection of Hamsas. And Sephardi, people who come, Jews who come from the Middle East, North Africa, Spain, a lot of them believe in this, in the Hamsa. They believe actually in this eye. We're going to be talking a lot about that. And the Ashkenazi world, people who come from Poland, Russia, from my father's side, nobody talks about it. Nobody believes in it. What's going on? So how come half of the Jews talk about it all the time? And how come half of the Jews never mention it? You'll never hear it in the Ashkenazi world. Hasidim don't talk about it. What's going on? So I'm going to give you information for around 20 minutes. If you have any questions, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to beg you to write it down. And hopefully Nicole will help me at the end to take your questions down. And I'm not in no rush, so I can stay around for another 20, 25 minutes answering. And if it's not enough, you can send me an email. Okay. So I want to talk to you about the following. What is the evil eye? What is Ayin Hara? Now, just because Ashkenazim, or people who come, Jews who come from Poland and Russia, so to speak, Belarus, Ukraine, that part of the world, don't talk about it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. As a matter of fact, is mentioned in the Talmud, is mentioned in the Kabbalah, is mentioned in many, in the Sifri, in the Sifra, is mentioned in many places. So is what we call the hidden Torah, so to speak. So the Sephardim love this stuff, and the Ashkenazim never talk about it. So I'm going to start very slow and explain to you what is the evil eye and how it works. But know that we believe in it, and know that it is something very powerful. So I'm going to tell you how it works, and I'm going to give you a lot of secrets, okay? Don't tell the other rabbis that I'm sharing all the secrets with you, because they're going to get very upset at me. I'm just kidding. So here it comes. There are 3 levels of what people call an Ayin Hara, or an evil eye. If you go to somebody, let's say we're going to have 2 people, let's say Pepito and Lupita. Yeah, I'm Mexican, so I like Mexican names. Pepito goes over to Lupita and he says to Lupita, "What a beautiful baby. Oh my gosh, your baby is absolutely beautiful." What is that? What has Pepito done? So nothing. He hasn't not done anything. He's just saying that the baby is a good-looking baby, is a nice baby, and that's it. That is not evil eye. When you go to somebody and say, "Hi, what a beautiful car. I love your new car. Hi, I love that new purse that you have." That's not evil eye. You're admiring something very beautiful. That's okay. There is a second level, and that is when things get very complicated. let's say you are, we'll start with the baby. Let's say you are a woman and you want to have children and you want that, you want it too. You want a baby. You want a baby. And in a way, you're upset that this girl, Lupita, has a baby and you don't have a baby. You wanted to. Now we're getting into very complicated things. Why? Because at that moment, you are bringing a complaint in heaven, so to speak. You are not allowed to put a complaint to heaven, heavenly court, and just walk away from it. So what happens now, there's a whole heavenly court that begins in the seventh heaven. There are seven heavens, and in the seventh heaven, there is a heavenly court. The moment you say, how come I don't have a baby? I want a beautiful baby too. How come Lupita has a baby and I don't have a baby? At that moment, you have created or initiated a heavenly court tribunal. And what happens is they bring Lupita, so to speak. Lupita is in here on earth, and you are here on earth. But Lupita's angel and your angel are taken up to the seventh heaven into a tribunal, and a court begins, starts a session. Incredible. And at that moment, that second is that fast that happens in heaven. And what happens is they bring Lupita, so to speak, Lupita's angel is taken up to court, and she is taken to court. Maybe she doesn't deserve this baby, and maybe you deserve a baby. So what happens is something very serious, because what you have just done is you just brought someone else to court. Now, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You have initiated a court case. And that's something very serious. Because even if you are right that you do deserve that baby, a baby, you have brought another woman, another human being to court. And now they have to decide in court if that woman, Lupita, actually deserves that child. So believe it or not, what you have started is an incredible, powerful thing, which maybe you had no intention to do so, but that's how it works in heaven. And that's why it's so dangerous, so dangerous, this concept of evil eye. There is a third level, and that's much more serious. Let's say you don't like Lupita. You don't like Lupita, and you say, you know, I don't, not only am I jealous that Lupita has a baby, not only do I want a baby, but I don't want Lupita to have a baby. What you just did is at much higher level. The first level is nothing. It's like, oh, what a nice baby, that's it. You give a compliment. What a nice car, that's it. The second one is, how come she has that car and I don't have a car? Doesn't have to be the baby. Let's switch it to the car. How come my neighbor has a car and I don't have a car? At that moment, you have taken your neighbor to court because they gave her a car and you didn't get a car. So therefore, both of you go to court. There is a third level, which is the worst one. And this is horrible. Not only do I want the car, but I want my neighbor to get into a car accident. Not that he should be injured. I don't want my neighbor to be injured, but I want the car to be totaled and destroyed because I really don't want her to have the car. First level, nice car. Second level is I want that car. How come I don't have it? Third level is I want the car, but I don't want her to have it. First level is nothing. Nothing happens. You're just admiring something beautiful. The second level is a very serious thing because you brought somebody else to court, and now they have to decide if that other person deserves the car or not. And number three, they have to, if you are wrong, you will be severely punished because you have initiated a court. You have brought somebody else to court. They have to now judge somebody else to see if they deserve it. And by the way, even if you deserve it and she doesn't, there's still going to be consequences because you initiated a court case. And if it's the third one, which is the horrible one, that I say, I want that car and I don't want her to have the car. I want her to destroy her car. At that moment, that is a horrible thing. And at that moment, they judge both of you. Now, if she doesn't deserve the car, that's complicated. It's not necessarily they're going to take away her car. But at that moment, because not only do you want something that doesn't belong to you, but you want harm done to her, there is a fascinating concept in Judaism that is called Mida Keneged Mida, measure for measure, is what we call Kasher Zamam La'azot. Is an incredible concept. Let's say that there are two witnesses that come. This is a famous concept in the Mishnah, in the Torah, and the Talmud, very famous concept. Let's say there are two witnesses, and they say that this guy, Joe, was in a bar at 11 p.m. and he killed somebody. And then they find out that these two witnesses were lying and they made it up because they wanted Joe to be killed. Kasher Samam, what they intended to do was to get Joe killed. So what do you do to these two false witnesses? Two other witnesses come and say, it's not true. They couldn't have been at that bar because they were with us at the Super Bowl in Los Angeles. So they're lying. And many other people saw them. So what happens now? The two witnesses come and say that the first two witnesses are false witnesses, and all they wanted to do is kill Joe. So what do? We kill the two witnesses because that's what they intended to do to Joe. The same concept, Kasher Samam, what they intended to do, applies in heavenly court. It's a fascinating concept. So if you wanted somebody else, you wanted that car, and you wanted them to lose that car, then in heaven, what they do is exactly what you wanted to do to them, that's what they do to you. It's called Mida Keneged Mida, measure by measure. Kasher Samam La'asot, what you intended to do. So therefore, let's say you don't have a car. So now heavenly court decides that you will never have a car, or if you have a car in the future, you will lose that car. Not only that, but now we're going to reward the woman that you brought to court. If she is a saint or she's a good woman. If she's not a good woman, then it gets much more complicated. That's it. That's what you have to know right now. Meaning that this is very serious. The concept of an evil eye in Judaism is incredibly serious. Therefore, you have to be very careful with this concept of evil eye. To say to somebody, oh, what a nice car, that's fine. To want something that somebody else has, that's against the Torah. To want something that someone else has and to make sure that that person loses what they have because you should have it, they shouldn't have it, that is exactly the 10 Commandments. That is what do not covet. And that is a negative commandment from the Torah, and that is a horrible, horrible thing. Okay, if you have any questions, please write it down. I'm going to move to the next subject, which is very, very important. Okay, the next thing I want to tell you is there is a concept in the Talmud that goes like this. Al ya'asim adam b'ma'akom sakana. A person should never put themselves in a situation of danger. We are not allowed to put ourselves in a situation of danger. Let me explain to you. Let's say there is a building that is about to collapse, and you decide just to walk in front of the building because, hey, you know, I don't know, I'm a lucky person, and you know what, is that building is not going to collapse right in top of me. It's probably going to collapse 10 minutes after I walk right underneath, or because you think it's funny, or because you bet to somebody else that it wouldn't fall in top of you. You put yourself in a situation of danger that is against the Torah, that's against Judaism, Let's say that building was going to fall on top of you. For some kind of reason, heaven intervened and it didn't fall on top of you, but it fell 10 minutes later. You have just used all your schusim. You have just used all the angels that you have created through your life. They've been stored in a bank account, so to speak, for the world to come. You have just used, if not all of them, most of them, because you put yourself in a situation of danger, and because you did it recklessly, and because you didn't have to be there. Because of that, now you have just used your bank account of zechuyot, of merits, that it has been stored in heaven for heavenly court. For the world to come. Fascinating concept. So something like this is very similar. The moment you bring someone else to heavenly court because you're jealous of them, what happens is, if you are right or you are wrong, you are probably using a lot of your merits are being taken away from you, even if you are right. Why? Because you brought somebody else to court, which is not a nice thing to do. And number two, even if you're right, in Judaism, the main concept is to love another fellow like yourself. Love your brother like yourself. If you don't want to be brought to court, how can you bring somebody else to court? So you have just used tremendous chusim, you have just used tremendous merits, and basically you are using a lot of the bank account that you have in heavenly court for the world to come. Really not a smart thing to do. That's a second concept that I want to share with you. There is a third concept. We learn in Parashat Ekev, we learn in the Torah, Be'esir Hashem imcha kol choli, and God will remove from you all illness and all sickness. That applies to people who do not covet, are not jealous of others. So if you want God to protect you and to heal you from sickness, then you have to make sure you are not jealous of other people. That's a certain verse in the Torah. It says, Be'esir Hashem imcha kol choli. If you want God to remove your illness, then God says, well, why should I remove your illness? If you're a jealous person and you hate other people and you bring them to heavenly court all the time, so to speak, you're a troublemaker, why should I remove your illness? I only remove the illness of people who are sweet and kind. And therefore, if you are bringing people to heavenly court constantly because not only are you jealous of them, but you're giving them the evil eye, the verse does not apply. There is another way of explaining the verse. There is a fascinating, this is what I'm about to tell you, you're going to fall from your chair. Diana is lying nicely on a bed, so she's probably the only one who's not going to fall down. Hold on really tight, Diana, to that bed. I'm about to tell you something unbelievable. You might want to sit up because I'm about to tell you, you'll never forget this as long as you live. Because what I'm about to tell you is so far-fetched and so crazy that you will never forget it. The Talmud talks about one of the greatest people that ever lived. His name was Rab. And Rab was an expert in knowing how and why people died. He was able to walk into a cemetery. That's how holy this person was. His soul was so close to God that he was able to stand in top of a kever, a grave, and tell everybody else who was with him, this person died because of this. This person died because of this. This person died because of a black plague. This person died because of bubonic plague. This person died because of heart problems. This person died because he was poisoned. Said Rav, he once brought the greatest rabbis in the world and he gave them a tour of a certain cemetery. And he said, in this cemetery, in Babylonia, this cemetery here in Babylonia, in a place called Pumbadita, everybody everybody except very few people, everyone buried here, meaning 98% of the people buried here, died because of Ayin Hara, died because of the evil eye. Because someone gave them the evil eye, or because they constantly gave the evil eye to other people. An unbelievable statement. That's how serious we take it in Judaism. When you bring other people constantly to heavenly court, you're not a good guy. And maybe they are shortening your life because of that. That's one of the explanations. Another explanation is, let's say that people bring you constantly to court. I know people who are constantly being brought to court, constantly. And I don't mean here in Dallas, Texas, downtown court. That's not what I mean. I mean, they love to show off and they love to constantly put other people down. And they love to tell other people about, how much money they made in Bitcoin and how much their new car and how much, their new business and how expensive is their new clothing. So other people become jealous of them. So they are constantly brought to heavenly court because they get other people jealous and they get other people to, so to speak, covet. Therefore, what they're doing in a way is not only are they losing their zechuyot, their merits in heaven, but they might be shortening their lives. Says Rav, in this town in Babylonia, 2,000 years ago, in a city named Pumbadita, 98% of the people who are buried here died because of evil eye, Ayin Hara. What does that mean? That means probably they died shorter, that they lived a little shorter than they were supposed to live. That's one of the explanations. Be it as it may, it shows you that the Talmud takes this very, very seriously. This is not a joke. You have to be incredibly, very, very careful with this. There's a fascinating Gemara in the Talmud, another part. It talks about the most beautiful man that ever lived. We're talking about a male, not a female. The Talmud also talks about the most beautiful females that ever lived. But in this occasion, it talks about the most beautiful males that ever lived. So Matt in the back over there is laughing. He's like, why is he telling me about the males? I want to hear about the females. Okay, Matt, maybe we'll get there one day. But what happens is today we're going to talk about a man named Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan, this man was incredibly beautiful, very, very beautiful. And the Talmud discusses many times about his beauty. Why? There was a certain man who was not a good guy. His name was Reish Lakish. And he said to Rav Yochanan, he says, you know what? I would be willing to change my ways and I would be willing to do teshuvah, to repent. He was a highway robber. And I would be willing to really go and study Torah with the condition that you would allow me to marry your twin sister. You are so beautiful. And I know you have a twin sister and your sister is absolutely beautiful. If you allow me to marry your sister, I will repent. I will change my ways. I will not be a highway robber. And I will actually get close to God. And Rabbi Yochanan said, no problem. Okay, you can marry my sister. Eventually, this guy, Reish Lakish, became a giant and eventually became the Chevruta of Rabbi Yochanan. And they learned together for 40 years. Chevruta means the partner in learning. And they learned together and they became brother-in-laws, learning Torah together and doing good for the world. Beauty is very important in Judaism. Says Rabbi Yochanan, he would stand every night, already when he was tired, he would go outside the mikvah. So raise your hand if you know what the mikvah is. The mikvah is, some of you might know, the ladies might know, it's like a bathhouse, it's a ritualarium where a woman immerses herself after she sees 7 days of blood. then she counts 7 clean days, and then she goes into this water and purifies herself. It's a fascinating concept. It's very long. Maybe we can talk about it another time. What's the purpose? What are they trying to accomplish, etc., etc. Why was Rabbi Yochanan sitting outside a ritual area, a mikvah, where it's only a place for ladies? The answer is the Talmud gives you an incredible secret. When a woman comes out of the mikvah, when a woman has purified herself and she's pure, at that moment, the first thing she sees is very important to what the child that she will have will look like. The Talmud discusses that if a woman comes out of the mikvah and sees a dog, she has to go back. Wow, a dog, D-O-G, has to go back to the mikvah because she has seen something impure and she has to purify herself again. So Rabbi Yochanan would stand outside the mikvah. So the first thing that these holy ladies would see is a beautiful man. So her child, eventually, the first thing would be something similar to this beautiful man, and it will be beautiful children. So they asked Rabbi Yochanan, aren't you afraid of all these people? They're going to give you the evil eye. Everybody knows you're beautiful. Everybody knows you stand every night outside the mikvah. Everybody knows that everybody's looking at you because they want their children to be beautiful. So aren't you afraid of the evil eye? He said to them, Ani mizera shel Yosef. I am a descendant of Yosef HaTzadik. Remember Joseph? The story of Joseph, which has had a couple weeks ago, the story of Joseph and the brothers. I have news for you. Everything, absolutely everything related to the evil eye goes back to Joseph and his father Jacob. Everything you've ever wanted to know about the concept of evil eye comes back to them. Why? When Jacob is about to die, he gives each son a different blessing. One of them, he tells him, you'll be very strong, very powerful, like a lion. Another one, he tells him, you will be very wealthy and you'll be a great merchant. Listen to the blessing he gives Joseph. Ben porat Yosef, ben porat ale Ayin. You will be ale Ayin. You will be protected by the Ayin Hara. The evil eye has no effect over you and your children. Says Rabbi Yochanan, I'm a descendant of Joseph. The evil eye has no power if you're a descendant of Joseph, because that's the blessing we got from Jacob. What does that mean? What does it mean, Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Ale Ayin? It means it is the blessing of fish. Correct? You heard me correct. Pescado, dag, fish. Very good, Lexi, fish. Thank you, Lexi, for helping me here. Any help the Mexican will take. What's with the fish? By the way, Jews talk about fish all the time. In the army, in the Israeli army, when you become an officer in the Israeli army, you have to swear that you will be a good officer. And one of the first things you have to swear is Acharai. Acharai means that the only army in the world that loses more officers than soldiers is the Israeli army. If you ever have an opportunity to go to Israel and you go to our Arlington, some of you have been, and some of you have been with me. If you ever go to Har Herzl, which is our Arlington in Israel, you will find there is over 25,000 soldiers buried there. And you will find that most of them, you find two things fascinating. One of them is most of them are around 18, 20, 22 years old. They're very young. And you will never find that in any other cemetery in the world. Most people buried there are on the 22 years. And the second thing you will find is most of them are officers. Why? Because in the Israeli army, they do not say attack. An officer doesn't stand on top of the hill and tells his people to attack. In Israel, the officer always says, Acharai, follow me. So the first bullet is always taken by the officer. And that's why so many officers are buried in our Har Herzl, in our Arlington. Because in Israel, in the Israeli army, no officer ever says attack and he stays safe in a safe place. The first one to put himself or herself in danger is the officer. Where do we learn this from? We learn it from also another thing that the soldiers, when they become officers, have to say. There is a blessing that Jacob gives Joseph, extra part of the blessing. He says that you may be like fish. And some of you in NCSY know this song. I don't sing for my life, but maybe John Ackerman will sing it for us. Beyidgu larov bekerev haaretz. May you grow like dag, yidgu. May you grow like fish, bekerev haaretz. Jacob is telling his children, especially Joseph, may you be like fish. What do you mean be like fish? What do you mean? Fish stinks. Who wants to be like fish, you know? It's like, what do you mean? Why would you be like fish? Because if you ever seen fish never travels alone, fish travel in schools. And if one fish is injured, what other fish do is they come from sides and they actually, so to speak, grab the middle fish who is injured. If this is the fish and he's injured, two other fish come from the side and they take and help take away the other fish. Says Jacob to Joseph, may you be like fish because you cannot harm fish that easily. If I see fish in the ocean and I want to take a rock and I throw the rock or the stone or the pebble into the water, then what happens is the moment the pebble the rock enters the water, it makes tremendous noise. And what happens also, the water slows down the momentum of the rock tremendously, the impact. So therefore, if the fish is here and the rock enters the water right here, the noise that it makes the fish go away. One, two, that rock slows down so much that when it finally gets to where the fish was, the fish is gone. Therefore, the fish is always protected. Not only is it protected by the water, but it's also protected by their peers, the school, which if they are in trouble, they take them away. So an Israeli officer, when he becomes an Israeli officer, he must swear that he will be an officer who will protect his people, his soldiers, the way the fish protect each other. Is a blessing from Jacob that he gave to Joseph. So says Rabbi Yochanan, I'm not worried about the evil eye because I am a descendant of Joseph. And therefore, I am not afraid of this. So we see again how powerful is the evil eye. So I just want to give you two more concepts and then I stop and I'll take questions. Why is evil eye so powerful? What I'm about to tell you is Kabbalistic, very advanced Kabbalah. When you go to somebody and you say, wow, look at that guy. That guy's really made billions of dollars. That guy is unbelievable. Oh my God, this guy, I don't know. This guy, Warren Buffett. Wow. Oh my gosh, he's brilliant. He's made $150 billion. He's giving away $70 billion to poor people in Africa. Warren Buffett. Wow, what a genius. What you just did was give the whole credit to a human being. And what you did is there is a string always between God and the human who receives. There is God, the creator who owns everything. There is a string. And then there is the person, the recipient, the rich person, in this case, Warren Buffett. When you give the credit to the human, what you have done is you have cut the string between him and God, and you have taken away the credit from God, and you are saying that this is the man who did everything. It was his brains, it was his intellect, it was his power, it was his ability. And then you have removed God from the equation. And therefore now evil eye can fall on Haman and his properties because you have removed him from being connected to God. So what happens if somebody comes to you and they say to you, Rabbi Lashak, you have a beautiful baby. How do you defend yourself? What they just did, they just cut the string, the connection between you and God. Or if they say to you, Rabbi Lashak, your Torah is beautiful. They're not giving the credit to God, they're giving it to a human being. So how does a human being, how do you defend yourself when someone is bringing evil eye to you? By the way, the Torah is full of cases. Pharaoh in Egypt, the Pharaoh, the famous Egyptian ruler, many times tried to give evil eye to Joseph. And Joseph always, he said, oh my God, you're amazing man. You don't know how to interpret dreams. And Joseph says, it wasn't me. The one who interprets dreams is God. And therefore, he was always protecting himself because he didn't want anybody cutting the connection between him and God. And every time Pharaoh gave him a compliment, says, I will make you the top of everybody. He said, who am I? I'm nobody. He says, I just tell you what God wants you to know. He's always giving credit to God because he knew that Pharaoh was giving him the evil eye. There are many cases like that. Fascinating cases. Abraham, when he's about to bury his wife Sarah, and he has to buy a piece of land from a guy named Ephron, this guy, before he sells the piece of land, which is in Hebron, it is, if you ever go to the city of Hebron, where Abraham and Sarah and all the couples, holy couples are buried, it was bought by Abraham, bought that piece of land because he didn't want anybody to say that it's not ours. But this guy, Ephron, kept on giving him an evil eye. I could show it to you inside one day. It's fascinating. And Abraham had to protect himself constantly of the evil eye. So I'm gonna share with you now a couple of ways of protecting yourself from the evil eye. And so we've learned you certainly shouldn't give an evil eye to somebody else. And I'm going to show you what to do if you did give an evil eye to somebody. And I will tell you what to do if you feel that somebody has given you an evil eye. So evil eye, don't give to anybody. First of all, you're good people. You should never do that. Don't bring anybody to court. It's a horrible thing. You could lose a lot of your schusim merits in heaven. Number one, we already spoke, many people die much younger because of this. Let's say somebody gives you the evil eye and you feel it. Sometimes you feel it. You feel it. Oh my gosh, this guy is so jealous of me. This woman is so jealous of me. So how do you protect yourself? How do you protect yourself? So listen very carefully. You do it the way Joseph does. Every time someone gives you a great compliment and you're not sure or you are sure if they're jealous of you, you say, it wasn't me, it was God. And at that moment, what you are doing is making sure that they do not cut the connection between you and God, and therefore you stay protected by God constantly. Do not take the credit. Don't say, it was me. Say it was God. Everything is God. You always give the credit to God. The moment you do that, the evil eye has no power over you. 1. 2. The next time someone you feel that someone really, I'm not talking about you're not sure. Sometimes you know for sure that this person is jealous of you, then everybody take your right hand and put it in front of you. No, the way I'm doing it. Remember that fish? Like this. Good. Now take the other one and put it in top. Very good, John. Very good, Nicole. Okay, let's see. Very good. Now watch. The thumb goes into this one and the thumb goes into the top one and you close. No, very good, Nicole. Very good. Rebecca, very good. Parker, a little higher. Let me see. Close, Parker. Close the hand. Very good. Rachel, a little like this, Rachel. Go in, Rachel, and close. Close. Bring them together, Rachel. Yeah, okay, good. Now, this crazy Mexican rabbi has lost his mind. Watch. This thumb is a weapon, and he's trying to harm you. What you are doing is you're putting up your thumb, and what you're saying, whatever evil eye is coming my way, I'm sending it back. Watch. You're not trying to harm anybody. You're just saying that whatever damage is coming my way, I don't want anything done to that person, but I do want it sent back. So this is what you do. This is very Kabbalistic. Ashkenazim don't know anything about this. This is very, very Kabbalistic. What you're saying to God is, listen, you don't have to say anything. It's just, sometimes I feel people are jealous of me, whatever it is, and I just go like this. I'm saying to God, please, God, don't let them damage me. I don't want to damage them, but I want to send it back where it came from. Not that they should be hurt, but it should come back where it came from. And that's what you're saying to God. And you also say, everybody repeat after me, Chazdei Hashem. The word Chazdei comes from the word Chesed. Chesed. Let's see if I can. Chazdei. Chazdei Hashem comes from the word meaning every kindness of God. If you don't remember the exact linguistics, it doesn't matter. Just remember to say it's all the kindness of God. So whenever people say to you, wow, oh my God, what a great job you just got, and you feel like maybe the person is being jealous, real jealous, say it's all the kindness of God. If you really feel the person really doesn't like you, then just go like that. Yes, that's it. They don't have to see it. You don't have to show it to them. You know, it's like sometimes I put inside my jacket, nobody sees it, and that's it. Chazdei Hashem is all the kindness of God. So what you're doing is whatever they said, you send it back. Now, watch. This is very, very, we're not perfect. Sometimes we get jealous of other people, but we know now that that's not a good thing. So how do I take it back after I realize that I've done something that I might harm other people or I might harm myself because I'm bringing them to heavenly court and I'm bringing myself to heavenly court. So how do I take it back? Now, this is from the Talmud. These are the great Kabbalists. You're really going to think I lost my mind. That's okay. It won't be the first or the last time. Your left eye must look, you close your right eye, your left eye must look the entrance to the entrance of your left nostril. You must close your right eye. The left eye looks into the entrance of the left nostril. What you are saying to God is, I'm sorry, I'm human, I made a mistake, I take it back. How does that work? That would be 45-minute explanation, just how the eye and the left nostril are connected and how you're taking it back. Trust me when I tell you, this is what it means. I'm not perfect, God. I'm sorry. I don't want anybody going to heavenly court. I don't want to bring myself to heavenly court. I don't want anybody else going to heavenly court. God, I take it back. Please forgive me. And that's what you say. Now, I'm going to tell you something very powerful. If you believe that somebody doesn't like you, and if you believe you have enemies for whatever reason, I hope you don't, but it could happen. If you do happen to have an enemy and that person really doesn't like you and you know for a fact is your enemy, then we have something else even more powerful. You ever heard, raise your hand if you ever heard a concept of Birkat Kohanim. It's called the priestly blessing. The priestly blessing, so usually I take a talit, this shawl, and I wrap myself and my son inside. And when I am saying, when the priests are blessing me, you're not supposed to look at the priest, so you wrap yourself in your talit. There is a certain special prayer there that you say, God, someone has had bad dreams against me. Please nullify them. And if I have had bad dreams or bad desires or bad intentions for somebody else, please nullify them. And that's how you nullify other people's evil intentions against you, but you must also nullify the ones that you have against other people. Otherwise, it doesn't work. They will not erase in heaven the ones coming your way unless you erase the ones that you send. The only way you can protect yourself from the ones coming your way is if you also forgive other people. There is another way to do it, and this is the easiest. All of you have heard of the prayer of the Shema. The prayer of the Shema at night before you go to bed saves you from all the evil decrees that other human beings purposely, intentionally, or unintentionally may have had against you. But it only works if you say to God, I forgive everybody. The moment you say that before the Shema, then God says, you forgive everybody else? Then what I will do for you is I will make sure that nobody can harm you. Look at my shoulder. Says the Chafetz Chaim, he says, if you want to be protected and anything that falls your way, you want it to fall, and that's why the shoulder is around, is because whatever falls, it will sleep. You have to be able to do the same thing for others. You have to forgive other people, and then God will make sure that nothing happens to you. I'll stop here and I'll take questions. So I'm sorry if I spoke for too long.
That was great. I think we have our first questions in the chat.
Well, Michelle said her question was answered. So
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'ah hakol niyeh bidbaro.
Amen.
Amen.
Oh, excellent. Okay, Michelle.
Mhm.
All right.
No question, Michelle.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, people are raising their hand. Can someone eye someone else through thoughts and not words?
Yes, an evil eye could be done through the thoughts, but it's not as powerful as if you say it with your mouth.
And how about if you say it out loud, but not to someone else?
No, the moment it comes out of your mouth, that's evil
Right.
eye.
Right.
So
Okay.
in your thoughts is bad. If it comes out of your mouth, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
even in your thoughts, you have to, in Shema, when you go to sleep at night or in priestly blessings, you have to say, God, I forgive other people. Please let them, whatever damage they were going to do to me, also it won't happen. But you have to be very careful, especially when you say Shema at night. Before saying Shema, you have to say, God, I'm not perfect. Please forgive me. I forgive other people. I'm not perfect. I had an evil thought about somebody else, but I was a little angry, upset, but please, I forgive everybody else. Please forgive me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, did I answer the question,
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes, thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. What was Michelle's question?
Hi, Rabbi Lashak. My question was about how you answered at the end, what to do if you get an evil eye, and what do you do if you give an evil eye by accident, but you gave everything? Because there's a lot in the Sephardi culture about like rituals that people do, like after a party, they'll like wash their face or something, or some weird.
I love that you brought that, Michelle. I'm going to, God willing, after the questions, remind me, Michelle. Okay. I want to bring up a lot, not all of them, because that's going to be a long time, but I'll bring up a lot of famous things that people do. And I will tell you if they work, if they don't work, if it's just
okay.
a makeup, if some guy got drunk and had 20 tequilas and made it up. I'll tell you. And you can ask me, Michelle, about if I miss any of them, you can ask me. Okay?
Okay.
Yes. Dahlia has her hand up.
I had a question about something you said kind of at the beginning.
about putting yourself in unnecessary danger. Like I was wondering how that kind of applies to like right now during COVID, where people exist in a way that like what's considered unnecessary danger.
It's an amazing question, Dalia. I don't know enough to answer that question, because obviously we're still learning a lot about COVID. I think we're going to be talking about this COVID business for, we're going to be telling our grandchildren, and they're not going to believe us. So I don't know if I can answer that question honestly. I'm not trying to dodge out of it. I'm not trying to get out of it. It's just that we're still learning so much about this COVID business. I am not a doctor. I am not qualified to know. I can tell you that we have an obligation to protect ourselves. And I can tell you that I have taken my 2 vaccines and I have taken a booster shot. And whenever I'm in public, I wear a face mask. I'm not telling anybody what to do. Everybody has the right to decide what they should do. The reason why I have done all this is because I have some health issues, and I have the health issues, and my doctors have told me that in my case I have to do this, and I trust my doctors. But I can't tell you what is the right, what is wrong. Everybody has different opinions. I don't know. I can only tell you what I have been told from my doctors to me, and I listen to everything my doctors tell me, and but I cannot talk about anybody else, because I guess we'll still be talking about it for 20, 30 years. Who was right? Who was wrong? Was it necessarily? Was it not necessarily? I'm not capable. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a competent person to talk about that. I have been told to vaccinate. I've vaccinated twice. I've taken the booster shot once. I protect myself very much. I wear masks wherever I'm in public, even at the synagogue. I went to the doctor today, and I'm constantly trying to protect myself. But I can't talk about anybody else, because every person is different. Depends the ages, depends the medical history. If you have pre-existing conditions, some people have diabetes, heart. Everybody's different. So did I answer the question or not? If not,
Well, I
tell
kind of
me.
have a follow-up.
Yes.
Is the unnecessary danger then more about intention than it is about actual understanding? Like because there's so much discrepancy over what's considered dangerous, then is it more about like, I think this is dangerous, so I'm going to avoid it, versus I think this is dangerous, so I'm not gonna, and I'm also not going to avoid it. So then unnecessary danger. Does that make sense? I don't know.
I think I understand what you're saying. Let me try to explain it in a different way, okay? Let me tell you what the Talmud does say. The Talmud obviously doesn't talk about COVID, so let me tell you what the Talmud does say. The Talmud says that, for example, if you do not know how to swim and somebody's drowning, you're not allowed to jump in after them, because instead of one person drowning, now 2 people will drown. So in that case, you would really be committing suicide, so to speak. You're not. A person doesn't know how to swim. He's never swum in his life. He's not allowed to jump. A person who's a professional swimmer has an obligation to jump if someone is drowning. What if you are 51% chances that you feel comfortable that you can save that person, and you feel comfortable in your abilities? Then you have to jump. What if you're 49% securing your abilities on how powerful the river is, and then you shouldn't jump? Meaning you have the Torah wants you to take care of yourself. The Torah wants you not to put yourselves in situations of danger. What danger is might be debatable by some people, by not. So let's stick with things that for sure we know there are dangers. I'll give you an example. Today, smoking is accepted by the world as something dangerous. When cigarettes were around in the 1970s, 1980s, they asked the greatest rabbi in the world, is cigarettes dangerous? And we didn't have the information that we have today. You know, that tobacco has 23, 27, 29, I don't know how many different things that could give you cancer. So he said maybe the first cigarette is dangerous. Later on, his son and his grandson said, when they knew more information, says, had my grandfather known more about cigarettes and the information and the Surgeon General, he would have said for sure cigarettes are dangerous. So what I'm trying to say to you, there are certain things that we know they're dangerous. Not putting on your seatbelt in a car, we know that's dangerous. So therefore, a person should put on a seatbelt. A person shouldn't try to smoke, and if he's smoking, he should try to stop. That we know for certain is dangerous. There's other things we don't know, maybe, I don't know. I'm not excusing anything. I'm just saying, when the Talmud says, do not put yourself in a situation of danger, it's like, you know, why would I walk into Hamas headquarters, you know, and start screaming things that they're not going to like? That's not what the Torah wants. The Torah wants you to be safe, and the Torah talks about, you know, if there is you should travel only, especially in those times, you should travel only during the day, not during the night. You should only, meaning anything and everything you can to stay safe. I don't know if I answer your question, Dali. Okay, I'm sorry. Next, I think Chanel has a question.
Hi, Rabbi. How are you?
Amazing. Good to see you.
Baruch Hashem. So I have a question about when you were talking about the mikveh. So when does a woman have to go? Like, for example, like, do we have to go right now if we're like not married, or we have to go when we're married?
It's an amazing question. I'm not a competent halachic authority on this subject, but usually a girl waits until she gets married. Before she gets married, she usually goes to the mikvah right before her wedding. And after that, a woman should not be with her husband during the 7 days that she sees blood, that she menstruates, and then she has to wait 7 clean days. So the way it usually works is the 7 days that a woman bleeds, and then 7 days of clean days, around 14 days, give or take, is the time that a woman is not with her husband. And then after that, she can be with him for around 2 weeks until the new cycle begins. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So it's every time, like every time the woman sees blood, it's the week and then a clean week and then 2 normal weeks.
So that week,
again.
she waits the 7 days. Then she counts 7 clean days, and then she immerses herself in the mikvah.
Oh, okay.
After that, she can be with her husband. But a young girl who's single usually waits until right before she's about to get married to go to the mikvah. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Lexi.
So I have 2, but I'm gonna say the first one first, and then if
I know you have 5. I know you have 5.
I actually have a whole page here. I narrowed it down to 2.
You're being polite to the rest of it.
So the first one is back at the beginning, you were talking about the 3 levels of the evil eye, and I was wondering, is level 2 always going to take someone to court? Like, so for example, if I see someone who has a nice car, I say to myself, I want that nice car. Why don't I have the nice car? But I'm saying it in the terms of, okay, how do I get a nice car? How do I, what are they doing that I am not doing? How are they more successful than I am? More of as a way to better yourself. Is that still casting an evil eye, or is that just like a self-reflection?
You have to be very careful. If you are saying, wow, that motivates me to want to work harder and be more successful in life because I want better things There's nothing wrong with that. If you want what she has because it bothers you that she has it, that's already bringing somebody to court. And if you want that, what she has, and you don't want her to have it, then that you're in big trouble. So it is good to want to be better. It is not good to want what other people have. Yes, your roommate has a good-looking boyfriend. Yes, and you say, well, you know, I wish I had a nice, you know, Valentine's Day was, you know, yesterday. So I don't know about these things, but I've been told it was. I'm kidding. So you know, so like this guy, you know, this girl is a nice girl and she has a nice boyfriend. I want a boyfriend too. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want her boyfriend, that's already the 10 Commandments.
So quick
There
follow-up.
used to be a very famous song in the 80s, and it was called I Want Jesse's Girl. You ever heard of that song? I can't sing for my life. Probably the worst thing I do in my life is singing in science. Don't ask me to do any science. All the science I learned at the Magic School Bus. Mrs. Frizzle, thanks God for Mrs. Frizzle. After the science, the Magic School Bus and Mrs. Frizzle, which is literally the worst thing I'm at. It's probably the second worst thing is singing. So that song, I Want Jesse's Girl. I mean, why can't you want a girl? Why does it have to be Jesse's girl?
Okay, so kind of like a follow-up quick question. So like obviously you can't necessarily control your like thoughts, wants, and feelings per se. Like you can know that like Hashem would not want me to think that, oh, this is against the Torah, I shouldn't be feeling this way. But yet, like, you know, people still feel the way they feel. Like, is there like, are you supposed to atone for the feelings, or like what are you supposed to do in that situation if I'm like, oh, I'm really jealous of my best friend and I don't mean to be?
That's an amazing question. That is an amazing question. We have books called Musar, and we Jews have an obligation to study these books that refine our characters. And it takes sometimes a lifetime. Anger, for example. I know somebody, a very good friend of mine, who's told me he's been working in his anger for 50 years. And it's come a long way, but it's not perfect. Jealousy is, if you study about jealousy in these holy books, it doesn't have to be, by the way, holy books. By the way, listen, you're welcome to go to Amazon, and you're welcome to go to Barnes and Nobles and buy any book that will help you work on yourself. It doesn't have to be a holy book. Anything that will help you on this subject is to be praised. But yes, you're right. I understand what you're saying. Your first reaction is like, hey, listen, I want Jesse's girl. That was your first reaction. But then you realize, whoa, 1 second. I just crossed the line. I don't want Jesse's girl. All I want is a companion. I want somebody to take care of me. I want somebody to be around for me. I want somebody to love me. Why can't I have that? So you fix yourself. So we, as Jews, we have to, after we catch ourselves, then we have to, okay, so, it's not really what I want. What I want is also companionship. What I want, God, I'm not trying to take away anybody else's. That's in your case, that's my neighbor's boyfriend. I don't want that boyfriend. I just want someone to be there for me too. That's what you're supposed to work on yourself. You're supposed to work on yourself to try to tune it, to make it a little softer, sweeter, not as harsh. Comprende? Is that okay? Did I answer your question? What was the other question?
The other question, I actually did
Parker and
another
David are
question.
waiting very patient. So, so what's the next question, Lexi? No, go, Lexi.
Oh, no, I actually like had asked that question already. Like that was the follow-up question. It kind of led into it. So we're good.
Okay, we'll put your other 7 questions to hold for a second, Lexi. Parker,
Okay, you answered my previous question.
I love the
in
hair.
chat.
I love the hair part.
Oh, thank you. So I was wondering if you are, if you're always sort of making sure that you don't take credit for things like your success and things completely, and you always recognize that these things come from Hashem. How do you keep a sense of like self-esteem and you know, be like proud of your accomplishments?
That's an amazing question, Parker. I love the question. That's an amazing question. I'm going to tell you different things. I was talking about this man, Rav Moshe Feinstein. He was probably the greatest man that we've had this century in the United States for sure. And he was the greatest. And they had a meeting of rabbis. All the great rabbis of the world came into one room. And Rav Moshe Feinstein, this man walks in and everybody stands up. And so he turns around to see who's coming. Yeah, everybody, all the rabbis are sitting in a room in a fancy hotel. These are the greatest rabbis in the world. There's like 40 of them. And he walks in and everybody stands up and he looks around, he turns around to see who's coming. So his son asked him, Dad, you really don't know it was you? You really don't know if they stood up for you? And he said, no, there is a lot of great people in this world. Why would it be for me? So he didn't say he wasn't great. He said there is a lot of other great people in the world. How do I know it was for me? So he wanted to see who's coming because he also wanted to give respect. So I think that teaches us tremendous lesson. Parker, great people know they're great. Yes, the great ones, they know they're great, Parker. But they don't go around making noise. I'll give you a different example. You know what a pushka is? You know what a tzedakah box is? You ever seen the where you put the coins for charity, a box full of coins?
Sorry, you have to speak a bit closer to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. You know what a tzedakah box or a charity box is?
Yeah.
Okay, so when does it make noise?
When you shake it.
Correct, but when it's empty, when he only has a couple coins. When it's completely full, it makes no noise. The great people don't go around making noise. The ones who are always making noise is because there's something missing. The real giants don't go around saying, oh, I did this, and twittering every 10 seconds. Oh my God, and you know, like, if you're really that great, you don't need to be making noise. The great ones don't make noise. The ones that make noise are the ones you should be worried about. So let me recap. The great ones know they're great, but they don't take the credit for it because they say it's thanks to God. I'll give you another example. I had an operation 22 years ago for my back. I had a huge back operation in 2000. And I went around looking for a surgeon that would operate my back. It was a very delicate operation and I really needed the best. And I interviewed 8 doctors. And finally, I found one that I wanted him to operate on me. You know what he said to me? He said, I'm not God, but I'm the closest thing to Ed when it comes to this operation. I said, I want him. Why? Because anyone who is that conceited better be good. And everybody told me he was the best. But I want to tell you something, Parker. I don't want to be his friend. I did want him as a surgeon. I do want him to operate on me, but I don't want him as a friend because he's a very conceited person. I'll give you another example, which is much more powerful. I met a microsurgeon who makes around, listen carefully. Look, I'm about to tell you, you're not going to believe. He makes in one morning, he operates around 100 days out of the year. In one morning that he operates, makes around, in one morning, he makes around $150,000. Are you following the numbers? And he does this 100 days out of the year. You know what he said to me? He said to me, I am God. And I said, be very careful to talk like that. Because one day, God may not like it. And he's the one who gave you the ability, the capability, and the knowledge, and the ability to perform these very, very unbelievable operations that very few people in the world do. You know what happened to him like 15 years later? One day he wakes up in the morning. One day he wakes up in the morning and his hand was useless. He can't explain why. He lost complete control of his hand. And he comes over to me and he says to me, are you a prophet? I said, no. He says, you must be. He said, I used to think I was God. And you know what God did? He took away my power, my ability. So it's okay to know you're great, but you have to say, it's not me. It's not me. It's all God. It is okay to be great. And it is okay to have self-esteem. And it is okay. But as long as you give credit to who gives, without God, I didn't wake up this morning. And without God, I don't have the wisdom to perform this operation. And without God's giving me the ability, I cannot pick up the instruments and do the operation. So you have to understand that, yes, you might be one of the greatest surgeons in the world, and you should have self-esteem, because you better have self-esteem. But don't say you are God. Say, thanks to God. Chazdei Hashem is all because of that. And then what happens at that moment, you are not cutting the relationship, just the opposite. And therefore you continue to get shefa, brachot, the blessings will keep on coming down your way. Did I answer your question, Parker?
Yes, thank you.
Shachar, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y usted?
Bendito sea Dios, Shachar.
Qué bueno. I think David had his hand raised first, so I don't know if he wants to ask his question first.
Yes, sorry, David.
Hi, sorry. I don't know why my camera's off. I couldn't seem to figure out the settings for that. I haven't used Zoom since June. But anyway, I was kind of wondering, if you're not aware of any of these Kabbalah stuff, or like, I mean, you've heard of like the evil eye and it's like whatever, like never took it seriously. Does that affect any of this heavenly court stuff? This is the first time hearing of it. I don't really know what to make of it.
Sure, it affects. It happens with or without you. I was once in Nevada, and a policeman stops me. It was a state trooper, and he says, "You're not allowed to make a right on red." I think it was Nevada. New Mexico, I don't remember. And I said, well, I didn't know, I'm not from here, I'm from Texas. And he said, just because you don't know the law doesn't make you exempt from it. And he gave me a ticket. So, meaning, what, David, sounds very harsh what I'm saying, but when you bring somebody else to heavenly court, you know you're not such a good guy. Meaning, when you want what she has, when you want that baby, when you want that car, when you want that boyfriend, that doesn't make you such a good person, David. You don't have to be a Kabbalist to know that we know the 10 Commandments. Everybody knows do not covet. We know that we shouldn't want what somebody else has. And certainly not only that, not only do I want that, but I don't want them to have it. Everybody knows that that's something, I don't need a Kabbalist to tell me that. My mom told me that. I heard that in 3rd grade. I heard that in Sunday school. So, David, what I'm trying to say is when things are wrong, they're wrong. So let me back up, David. That was the now, obviously, David, that if we don't know the extent of it, and we don't know all the Torah of it, then therefore we cannot be taken into court the same way. Because listen, we are something called Tinok Shenishba. What do we know? We're like babies. We didn't know about it. So God will say, well, you knew it was wrong. And you'll say, yes, I'm sorry. I should have been better. So a person will not be punished to the extent of the law. They'll be punished very low. Did I answer your question, David?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, David?
Not that I can think of.
But I'll share with you something very powerful. I studied at the greatest yeshivas in the world, and they asked one of my rabbis, one of the greatest rabbis in the world. They said, "You know what? I'm not going to study any more Torah." They told Rabbi Franz, this is one of the greatest Torah giants in the world. They said, "Rabbi, I'm not going to study any Torah." So the rabbi says to the young man, let's say Shmuley, whatever his name was, Shmuley, why aren't you going to learn any Torah? He says, Rabbi, because the more I learn, the more I realize I keep on messing up. So you know what the rabbi said, David? An amazing thing. He said the reward is always 500 times greater than the punishment. You should continue to learn Torah. And yes, you're going to learn that some things that you or I do, we could be better, or we should be better, and we have to be better. But always remember that the reward is 500 times greater than the punishment. And that's what's so beautiful about the Torah. And that's why you should continue to learn Torah, David. Comments, jokes, recipes?
Oh, well, that was very interesting. I couldn't tell you much more right now, and I'm taking this in right now.
Thank you, David. Okay, Shachar.
All right, this is perfect. Shachar, you're going to close us out. This will be the last question for the evening. Rabbi
Okay.
Lashak's always here, obviously.
I want to know if Shor has been behaving.
So far, yes. So far, nothing bad has happened.
Okay.
That's always good news.
Okay. You guys tell them you have friends in low places.
Exactly.
He can hear you.
That's fine. He can hear
He's
me.
here.
Good. He should hear
Oh,
you.
I see him.
Okay, so this might be like a silly question, but
There's the thing of silly questions.
so does the evil eye strictly affect like humans? Like, okay, so we have an apple tree in our backyard. And so most years it's really fruitful, so many apples. And then one year out of nowhere, it got like no apples. And automatically my mom was like, alguien nos dio el mal de ojo. Like somebody gave us the evil eye. Is that?
It could be, but I doubt it. It could be. It could be a neighbor or somebody else gave, yes. I doubt it. That's not usually how it works. Everybody's taking the mal de ojo, they take it to a tremendous extent. It could be, yes, but it's not usually the way it works.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. It's not the only thing that feeds you.
Mm.
Is it the only thing you guys eat?
No.
Then it's not. If it would be the only thing that feeds you, then someone gives an evil eye, then I would say yes. But there's many other, what do you mean? You know, that's not what feeds you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, somebody might have put an evil eye. I doubt it. I doubt it. Sometimes trees have good years and sometimes they have bad years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah. Sorry.
Sometimes the trees come out, one year they comes out with tremendous fruits, and then other years they don't. Depends on the weather, depends on the land, and then the ground, depends on the air in the ground, depends on, I don't know, I'm not a farmer, but there is a million things that could change it. I doubt it. No, I don't think so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So good to see all of you.
All right. Thank you so much, Rabbi Lashak. I think everyone who's still on the call already has filled out the form, but if you did not have a chance to, that's our way to keep in touch with you, and possibly you could win an Amazon gift card. Otherwise, the recording is on our fancy new website. If you haven't seen it yet, it's ncsy.org/ncl, and we'll send out a follow-up email to this with the recording and with our next topic, which will be in 2 weeks. We look forward to having Rabbi Lashak again.
My pleasure.
Wow,
Good.
2 weeks we have to wait for Rabbi? Oh my gosh.
I believe he's available if you need to speak with him. As for Rabbi Lashak.
You can always send me an email if I'm not traveling, or and I will try to get back to you. I travel a lot, so if you wait for me 2-3 days and I'm not in the mountains of Chile or something crazy, I will try to get back to you. But it's always good to see you guys, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you very much, Nicole. So nice to see so many friendly faces. God bless you, and continue to learn Torah, because the reward is 500 times greater.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Rabbi.
A wonderful night, everyone.
Buenos nachos.
Buenos